If you told your girlfriend that you would stop making coffee for her unless she stopped micromanaging you, would that make you a jerk? Well, we'll get into that story in just a bit, but first, am I the jerk for kicking a lady and her autistic kid out of my beach party? I booked a stretch of private beach for my dog's party. It's something I've been wanting to do for a while since my dog loves the beach, but normally she's not allowed off leash. I just wanted her to be able to run and enjoy to her heart's content. I invited a lot of people and their large dogs, so there's a bunch of large dogs running around. The private beach is right next to a public beach. There's also signs at the boundaries informing the public that this particular stretch is privately owned, but no fence or border, so it's easy to miss. However, normally the beach is open to the public. The beach club that owns it has signs that says it's closed for a private event in the clubhouse. It's also a spot that's usually very family-friendly, and so there's always a bunch of kids. That weekend was especially crowded since it was a holiday weekend, CNY. So some people and some kids made their way onto the edge of the private beach. They probably didn't know. I didn't do anything since the stretch I was on was still feeling pretty private. Then one couple and their kid make their way closer to us. Granted, we're on the nicest stretch where all the umbrellas and beds are, but they're still keeping a bit of distance, so I let them be. Their kid is playing on the beach, the dogs are having fun. We start tossing a ball as far as we can up and down the beach, so the pack of dogs is just losing their minds going after it. Then the lady starts yelling at us to control our dogs, about how we're being selfish by monopolizing the beach and scaring away the other beachgoers by having our dogs running around. She starts lecturing me about how dogs are required to be on leash on this beach, and how I'm triggering her autistic kid and ruining their family day. One of the dogs shook and sprayed her kid with water, and her kid was melting down. I apologize and then tell her that I don't have to do anything about the dogs since I booked the beach for them, and that she and her kids need to leave. She doesn't take me seriously. She points out all the other couples and kids on the private beach. She thinks that if they can use it, then she can as well. I point out that none of the other kids are bothered by the dogs or having a screaming meltdown, but hers is. Then she claims I'm discriminating against her for having an autistic kid. I get the staff to kick her out. She tries to sneak in at the boundaries because it's much nicer and quieter than on the public beach, but I notice and tell the staff to just kick her out again. Some people think I'm being too harsh because I won't even let her stay when they're at the very edge, a distance away and not bothering us, especially because it's for an autistic kid to get a nice quiet stretch of beach. But I want to enjoy my day without being mindful of potentially triggering her or her kid again. Am I the jerk for repeatedly kicking out a lady because her autistic kid was triggered and melting down at my beach party? Well, two things come to mind here. A, you did book that stretch of beach, so technically it's yours and your party's to utilize however you see fit. And secondly, she took the first shot. She was the one coming up onto you saying that you're selfish and all that kind of fun stuff. And I think if she had handled that a little bit better, you could come to some sort of amicable agreement of how to share the space. But because she was so rude and mean, I don't think you're a jerk at all for kind of pushing her out of the way. I mean, autistic kid or not, that just wasn't very kind of her in the first place. Karmabound commented, "Not the jerk. You paid for the private beach so the dogs could enjoy it. Once she knew the situation, she should have respected the boundaries and realized she was wrong. It would be one thing if she had been kind in the first place, but she was rude. It wasn't so much about the kid being autistic as it was about the way she handled the situation. What goes around comes around." Also, hi, hello, my name is Brendan, and if you guys enjoy these Am I the Jerk videos, it would be so nice, so awesome if you left a like or comment down below if you're listening to our podcast. That being said, our next story is, am I the jerk for a French joke I made? So, this past weekend, a couple of friends and I met up. One of them brought along someone new, a woman who came from France. We all talked for a while about her country and her language. At some point, I decided to make a joke, and I told her, it sucks that Americans don't really know any French beyond basic words and phrases like bonjour, merci, voulez-vous coucher avec moi, que soit. For those who don't know, that last sentence means, do you want to sleep with me tonight? It was a famous line from a song that I thought Americans were pretty familiar with and would know that line. Apparently, she didn't get the reference, and she got really upset after. She told everyone else what that sentence meant, and they said I was a jerk. I repeatedly told her I wasn't asking her to sleep with me, that it was just a joke about a song, but she wasn't hearing any of it and kind of ruined the night for everybody. My friends are still saying I should apologize, but I don't feel like I did anything wrong besides make a joke that fell flat. Am I the jerk? So I'm just going to assume that this woman is under the age of 25. Like, how do you not know that song? Even I knew it. Come on. But no, I don't think you're a joke. I mean, you were making a joke, not even really an offensive one. You're quoting lyrics from a song. And, you know, if an apology is what it takes to kind of satiate her and placate, I would just go ahead and do it. But no, I don't think that that's a big deal at all. And yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Not the jerk. Lulu_42 commented, "Not the jerk. First, it's a pretty common song. There's even an episode about it in Gilmore Girls. Second, you explained yourself. Once that explanation came, the pearls should be unclenched. Third, there are much ruder ways to ask someone to make the beast with two backs in French. Oh, and if you want a good fish joke, why do the French eat just one egg for breakfast? Because one egg is enough." Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to give my coworker a ride after he called me his personal chauffeur? I have a coworker who lives near me, and I've given him a ride to work a few times before. Well, his car is now in the shop, needed to get work done, and he asked for a ride again. Not a big deal. He even asked if I could stop by the store for him to pick up groceries, and again, I didn't mind. I had nothing else going on. Well, earlier I heard him joking about how I'm his personal chauffeur, and he didn't need to rush his car getting fixed. He asked me for a ride again today after work, and I told him no, bringing up what I heard him say. He said I'm overreacting and that he was just kidding. I didn't give him a ride home, and he had to pay for an Uber. Am I a jerk for not giving him a ride home, or was his joking as rude as I took it? No, I don't think you're a jerk. I don't think that's really an appropriate joke to make. Anytime you say something that establishes a superiority complex, not really okay. Especially since he seems to really be leaning into it by asking you to go get groceries for him and stuff like that. It's not just rides to and from work. So no, not a jerk. I would have done the same thing. Someone you don't know, 70, commented, "Not the jerk. I don't think the joke about you being his personal chauffeur is as bad as he didn't need to rush his car getting fixed. The joke is one thing, but this idea that he's using your kindness as an excuse to hold off on getting his crap together is unacceptable. He absolutely needs to get his car fixed. He seems to be oblivious to the imposition that he's putting on you." Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to share my food with my roommate? I, female, 26 years old, live with female, 25 years old. Last night, I brought home a rotisserie chicken I bought from the store, and I ate some of it and packed it away to cut up for sandwiches the next day. I left a note on it with my name implying that it's mine in the fridge. I wake up this morning and the entire chicken is gone. I texted her about this a little upset because I didn't have anything else to take to work, and I got a very nasty reply where she basically told me I didn't need to eat that much chicken. I texted her back telling her that anything in the fridge she didn't put there to not touch, and that solves that. I hate coming across like this, but I feel like I have to. Am I the jerk here? Of course you're not the jerk. Look, it's just a matter of principle to not take or touch other people's things without asking. And then she had the nerve to not just like take a bite or a piece of chicken, she ate the whole damn thing. So the nerve of her to get mad at you and try to gaslight you. No, not the jerk at all. Discount Mithril commented, "Not the jerk. The general rule with a shared fridge is if you didn't buy it, ask first. Sounds like she owes you a replacement chicken, and for someone who ate the rest of it, to tell you that you didn't need to eat that much is a wild freaking take. Your roommate sounds super entitled. You may need to look into a dorm-sized fridge for your room where she won't have access to your food." Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my daughter she'd be punished? My 35-year-old male car is in the shop right now, so my wife, 35-year-old female, was giving me a ride to work today and taking our daughter, 10-year-old female, to school. When we got in the car and were about to go, when our daughter got out of her booster seat, my wife and I told her to get back in it, but she said she wasn't sitting in it. We told her she needed to sit in it and she needed to get in it right now because we had to go. She raised her voice and said, "No, I'm not sitting in that stupid booster seat, you butt faces." My wife kept trying to calmly tell her to get back in her booster seat, but our daughter kept arguing. I became very irritated because I had to get to work and so did my wife, and our daughter had to get to school, and this little argument was gonna make everyone late. So I turned to my daughter and told her if she didn't get back in her booster seat, she would lose her iPad for 3 days. After this, she got back in her booster seat and buckled up. She didn't talk to us and had a grumpy look on her face the whole car ride. After we dropped her off at school, my wife expressed how upset she was with me for telling our daughter she'd be punished all on my own. She said we're both her parents and we need to discuss things on how to deal with her misbehavior together, and it's not okay for one of us to just tell her she will be punished. I tried to explain to my wife that I didn't mean to upset her and we needed to get going, and that's why I did it. This didn't make my wife feel better. When I got home from work, I tried to see if she'd gotten over it, but she was still giving me the cold shoulder. I asked if she was still mad at me, and she said of course she still was, and did I think anger just evaporated? Am I the jerk? Update. I talked to my daughter about why she didn't want to sit in her booster seat, and she told me she got picked on for it. Another kid at her school called her a baby when she saw her getting out of her booster seat when we dropped her off. I asked her about the kid, and she said it was just a girl she sees and talks to sometimes at recess, lunch, and at pickup, drop-off, and she isn't in her class though. I asked my daughter if she wanted to be friends with her, and she said no, she didn't want to be friends with a bully. I then told her it doesn't matter what bullies think. Bullies just like to be bullies. She confirmed that none of her friends bully her for being in a booster seat, and she doesn't see this girl much. So I suggested to her to just ignore bullies like this girl and focus on her friends who are nice. But I reassured her if the bullying ever got worse, she just has to let us know and we will step in and make it better. I explained to her that her booster seat is going to keep her safe and that's why she needs to sit in it, and that she wouldn't be comfy in the car without it. She wouldn't. That it wasn't us trying to be butt faces, but keep her safe. She said she definitely wanted to be safe. She apologized for calling us butt faces, and she and I cuddled. This all happened right around her bedtime, and we always cuddle for a bit before bedtime. And we both fell asleep on her bed while cuddling. I woke up later and luckily was able to tuck her in bed, kiss her goodnight, and leave without waking her. My wife is no longer giving me the cold shoulder and is open to communicating with me, but there's still some issues we need to work on. Hopefully, we'll be able to work these out and get on the same page when it comes to parenting our daughter in not too long. Thank you all for your help. Well, first of all, glad this had a happy ending, but second of all, no, you're not out of line for being a parent to your child. Like, why are you even having an argument, a discussion with a 10-year-old anyway? She just called you a butt face, so that definitely warrants a step up in sternness, and, you know, it's not like you backhanded her and beat her into submission before she got back into the car seat. You just said, look, you're going to lose your iPad. I mean, those are the sort of empty threats that anyone that works with kids is quite familiar with that tactic. I'm more surprised by the wife's reaction. You don't really have time in that situation to sit there and have a 15-minute discussion of how you're going to discipline your daughter. You just have to do what you do in the moment and back each other up. Desert Song La La commented, not the jerk, but you both need to decide on punishments you can agree on so one of you can deliver it when needed. Consider 3 levels, mild, medium, and big. Sounds like you both are not used to addressing punishments. It gets easier. Your wife's extended cold shoulder is odd, but work on it. Your assessment and chosen consequence was accurate. Do not compromise safety. Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to let my girlfriend bring her dead dog's ashes on vacation? My girlfriend, 29-year-old female, and I, 28-year-old male, have been together for 4 months. She had a dog that died a few months before we met. I've only ever spent the night at her place. I live with my sister and her 2 kids, so it's a little chaotic at my place. Girlfriend has a small, 2 to 3 inches tall, urn on her bedside table with the dog's ashes. Before she turns off her lamp to go to sleep, she always gives it a little tap on the top and says goodnight, as though she's talking to the dog. I think it's weird, but I've never said anything. We were supposed to go away for the weekend. On Friday, I was watching her pack and noticed she took the urn and put it in the top of her backpack. I asked what she was doing. She said she didn't want to leave the dog behind. I told her she was not allowed to bring the urn as it made me very uncomfortable. I didn't want to see it anytime we returned to our hotel room. I didn't want her talking to her dead dog after we'd hooked up, like before we go to sleep. It's weird, and frankly, she's been mourning this dog for too long. She didn't argue, she simply started to unpack her bag. She told me to have fun on the weekend getaway as she would not be coming. I asked if she was seriously choosing a dog's ashes over me. She said she was choosing herself over me, as I could have spoken to her with kindness and empathy, but didn't. She also said that I didn't get to dictate how long she's allowed to grieve. Then she asked me to leave. She hasn't replied to my texts. I think she's overreacting. My sister said she can see both our sides. Am I a jerk for thinking my girlfriend is weird for being attached to her dead dog's ashes? My friend, you are 100% a jerk here, and quite honestly, very oblivious. Like, you refer to her like she's a piece of property. She's not allowed to bring that urn. I don't want you talking to the ashes after we hook up. Like, it just, comments like that reek of misogyny, and the fact that you can't see that is a serious problem. Your girlfriend is allowed to grieve whatever, a dog, a person, losing a job, stuff happens. And so for you to not only not be supportive, but call her weird for it is terrible, man. Terrible. Crimson Knight 004 commented, "Your girlfriend, well, ex-girlfriend most likely, sounds amazing. I wish she was my friend because she sounds like an awesome person to know. Sounds like you lost that privilege by being a jerk. You are the jerk. Everything she said was 1000% correct. I don't even have anything to add because she spoke for herself so clearly. The fact that you still don't get it shows you have a fundamental problem actually hearing her. Read and reread what she said until you get it. Edit. Do you realize your second edit makes it worse, right? She's working with a psychologist. She's going at a place that's healthy and comfortable for her, and she has a professional to help her with that. You don't get to decide what's too long for anyone else's trauma or grief. How dare you think otherwise? If you can't keep yourself from butting into her personal affairs like this, then you aren't ready for a real relationship." Our next story is, "Am I the jerk? New neighbor requesting surveillance footage for a 30-second activity within a 2-week time frame. I've said no twice and they keep asking. My neighbor from a few doors down purchased the house next door to me and is actively renovating it. They've been pretty respectful and so have I. I recently gave the owner my phone number after I saw a pretty extensive water leak from their renovation flowing into my driveway to the street. Not a big deal, but obviously they would want to get that turned off immediately and repaired. I'm in construction and real estate and recently had a similar leak from my house, so being neighborly, I texted them a link to the part they needed to fix the specific issue. Flash forward about a month later, neighbor is texting me asking if I have surveillance footage of their renovation property, especially the outdoor breaker boxes. They referenced a 2-week period that a now fired contractor allegedly flipped a breaker that they weren't supposed to. Pool pump came and stayed on, ran dry, and burned out. I immediately let them know that my surveillance system is not in any way aimed at their house, and I wouldn't have a view of that. They asked again in pretty much the same words as if I hadn't already replied. I did not feel so inclined to send them all sorts of camera screenshots that were none of their business, but I did send them two where her property line was just on the edge of the screen. They replied with a zoomed portion of one of the pictures, maybe equated to less than 1% of the entire view, circling and drawing arrows all over it, and "This is the breaker box. Please send me pictures." Mind you, I already said no twice at this point. I've not replied again since the last text, but for those not understanding the request, there is no quick way to watch 2 weeks of surveillance footage of a tiny zoomed-in 100 by 100 pixel area awaiting any type of movement. Your eyes would have to be on the screen the entire time. This is very different than watching for something stolen or broken, where you can easily narrow it down. This is not a reasonable request, even from a neighbor on friendly terms, much less from a random acquaintance that I've spoken to maybe 5 times. I manage property all over town, have a lot of surveillance systems, and have been asked many times for footage by police, neighbors, strangers, etc. Even the police, when investigating a crime, don't ask for things that obscure. Am I a jerk for not replying again, not saying no a third time, not explaining why, or not being willing to watch 2 weeks of video footage looking for a possible 5 to 60 second period of an extreme close-up? No, you're not a jerk for reasons you already gave. This is a very unreasonable request. Moving on. LiveKindly01 commented, "Not the jerk, but honestly, your reasoning is something you can share with her up front. I'm sorry, but this is a longer job and would require me to forward through hours of video to catch something. I don't have the time to do it as a favor, but if you feel very strongly about getting this footage, I'll do it for $20 an hour. Let me know if it's worth it to you to have the footage you're looking for. Or you can easily upload the entire 2 weeks and let them find it themselves. Either way, you're not a jerk for not wanting to spend hours of time to do it, and you should not feel out of place saying exactly that. Everyone's time has a price." Our next story is, "Am I the jerk for assigning blame when the shower curtain fell down? My, male 36, boyfriend, male 26, likes to take really long showers. 20 minutes is a short shower for him. I live in an old Victorian with a ceiling-mounted shower curtain that goes all the way around an antique tub. I use a cloth shower curtain because it's easy to throw into the washer. The problem is that if you take a really long shower, the curtains begin to soak up the water, which makes them heavier. The apparatus holding the shower curtain up is both an antique and too high to easily reach to tighten, so if the curtains get too heavy, they pop right out of their mounting points, usually 2 out of the 3 of them. The other day, I reminded him not to take too long in the shower because we also had to get to work in a reasonable amount of time. He thought I was kidding, so he took a half-hour shower. The curtain fell down. He tried to fix it on his own, but called me in and I helped fix it. I was admittedly annoyed and pointed out that the curtains were literally soaking wet. He was embarrassed. I take short showers, so this isn't an issue for me. This is probably the 4th time this has happened. I'm adding a plastic liner now, even though I think they're kind of gross since you can't wash them easily. But in saying I'm doing that, I noted that people tend to adapt to him rather than him adapting to others. Days later, he maintains that I'm the jerk for making him feel bad, and doesn't see that it wasn't just a random chance accident. So, am I the jerk for pointing out that what happened was a direct result of him taking 30 minutes in the shower? Honestly guys, I don't have anything to add to this, so let's just read the comments, shall we? General Character 101 commented, "You're the jerk for blaming your boyfriend taking long showers when the problem is you using a cloth shower curtain with no liner, which is more unsanitary than just disinfecting plastic every now and then. Without the plastic curtain, there's no true isolation of the water in the shower, and frankly, it's absurd to me that you consider the cloth shower curtain with no liner a cleaner option. Also, 20 to 30 minutes is not an incredibly long shower. On hair days, my showers crest 40 minutes. On non-hair days, they're around 20 to 25. If I'm rushing, I can get through a shower in less than 5 minutes, but there's no reason your shower shouldn't be able to handle 20 to 30 minutes. The problem here is your lack of proper shower maintenance." Our next story is, "Am I the jerk for believing my 2.5-year-old over my mother-in-law?" Without going into too many specifics, my mother-in-law is difficult to deal with. The biggest problem I have with her is that she does what she wants with my daughter regardless of what me or my husband say. I'll say no candy, she'll give her 2 pieces. She sneaks her Coke and tea even after we've told her not to. Most things are harmless enough, but my husband and I watch our daughter like a hawk when we're at their house now. We were there for a long weekend and honestly, everything was going great. Mother-in-law was in a great mood and father-in-law was feeling good. He's in his 90s and his health hasn't been great the past year. I let my guard down and let my daughter spend some time with my mother-in-law. A couple of days later, when my daughter and I are eating lunch, she tells me mother-in-law clipped her hair. I asked her where, and she pulls at her bangs, and sure enough, they look like they've been cut. She also said the same thing to the neighbor when the neighbor said how blonde my daughter's hair had gotten. Grandma clipped it. That would have been my daughter's first haircut. I had no doubt mother-in-law cut it. She mentioned a couple of times my daughter needed a haircut. Me and my husband said no, we did not want to cut her hair. I texted my mother-in-law that I knew she had cut her hair and basically we'd be going no contact for a while, along with how I felt about the situation. She of course denied everything and called my husband, screaming, crying, "How can you believe anything a 2-year-old says?" So, Reddit, am I the jerk? No, you're not. I mean, first of all, 2-year-olds don't know how to lie yet. They're not quite at that age where like a guilty conscience starts to develop and they call the shots exactly as they fall. And secondly, it's your child, their grandchild or her grandchild. And so, yeah, she doesn't get to do stuff like that without consulting you first. So your reaction is totally justified, not the jerk. Afraid Ostrich 9539 commented, "Your mother-in-law has a habit of going against the wishes of a child's parents. Doesn't matter who the kid is, stranger or family. You know this, she knows this. How on earth can she expect you to believe her when it comes to your child? Now, could your daughter have lied? I mean, it's a possibility, but look at it this way. Someone has cut her hair. So until good old grandma can empirically prove she isn't the culprit, tell her what her actions in the past have led you to believe the one person in the situation who doesn't go behind your back. It doesn't matter that the one person is only a toddler." Our next story is, "Am I the jerk for accusing my friend's kids of stealing my child's toys?" Last week, my friend, 28-year-old male, and I, 26-year-old male, have had our kids together for a play date. He has 4 kids ranging from 5 years old to 11 years old. We're at my house, and my child, 8-year-old female, has Pokemon cards. Some cards were in a book, and these cards were the special ones. After our friends leave, this book magically disappears. This is the 3rd time something of my child's has come up missing after our friends have come over. I've tore my child's room apart looking for this book of cards. I blame my wife for not putting the book away with the other special toy she put away before our gathering. It was supposed to be her responsibility to keep our child's belongings safe. This book is nowhere to be found. This is where I may be the jerk. I don't want these kids at my house. I've played heck calming my daughter down after her stuff came up missing. I asked her to be paid back for at least a portion of what my child lost. Now my friendship is just about over because I accused his kids of theft. Yeah, kids lose things, man. Like, you have to be absolutely certain that that book is not in the house, and even then, throwing out accusations like that is tough. So yeah, I don't blame you for being upset that the book of valuable Pokemon cards went missing, but the way that you're handling it is kind of jerky, just a little bit. Catchacast commented, "You're the jerk for blaming your wife. It's also your responsibility to keep your child's belongings safe. Why is it only her responsibility? Also, your daughter is 8, so she probably can start learning to put her own things away. As for the stealing, it's reasonable to not want your friend's kids at your house if it always ends in tears for your daughter. Fair. Don't know how exactly you brought it up to your friends, but how tactful were you? You could have tried playing nice and asking them to check if maybe your kid's things got mixed up, before asking immediately to be paid back. Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my girlfriend I wouldn't make her coffee anymore unless she stops micromanaging me? So, for context, I, 24-year-old male, and my girlfriend, 23-year-old female, have been together for about 2 years, living together for roughly 6 months. Normally, we have a good routine. I wake up first, make coffee, and she wakes up to a nice hot cup. Recently, though, she started getting really particular about how she wants it done. She insists on using this super specific method: measure the grounds to the exact gram, pre-warm the mug in the microwave for 30 seconds, add the milk at a certain temperature, and on and on. At first, I tried to oblige because, hey, if she loves coffee that much, I want to make it nice for her. But it got to a point where every time I handed her a cup, she'd grill me. Did you weigh the grounds first? Did you warm the mug? Is this whole milk or 2%? If anything was off, even by a tiny bit, she'd sigh and say it wasn't as good as the right way. One morning, she literally took the mug from me, dumped it down the sink, and started the process herself, while ranting that I never do it the right way. I got frustrated and told her, if you're going to be this picky, just make your own coffee. I'm done making something only to be told how it's wrong every time. She got upset and said I was overreacting, that she just wants her coffee a certain way, and that I should respect her preferences. I argued that I was respecting her preference, I just don't appreciate the constant criticism or micromanaging. She accused me of being lazy and unaccommodating. Now I'm feeling guilty because I do want her to enjoy her morning coffee, but I'm also tired of feeling like I'm barista under constant scrutiny. Am I the jerk for telling her she can just handle it herself until she stops micromanaging me? Or should I just suck it up and follow her super detailed instructions? You're not the jerk. I think you handled it exactly how any rational human being would. If she wants it a specific way, you can certainly try, but if you're not meeting her expectations, she's kind of obligated to take over and do her own coffee at that point, because you're doing her ultimately a favor and a courtesy by preparing coffee for her, right? One anonymous user commented, not the jerk. If I ask my boyfriend to do something for me, I accept that it's a favor and I can't be picky. Like, babe, will you please help me clean up my car? It'd be really nice and a huge help. But when he does, I don't go white glove it and complain that he didn't wipe out the cup holders. He was being kind and helpful, but he's not my servant. You can't expect others to do nice things for you if you're nasty about your expectations for how they're done. It's that simple. She sounds like a piece of work. Edit to add. Weaponized incompetence only applies when someone is trying to get out of required work, like household chores. Chores have to get done, so faking being incapable would make OP the jerk. But that's not what's happening here. Making coffee or cleaning out a car is an act of love. It's meant to be a kind gesture that's not required, and this woman is throwing it in OP's face. Or in this case, down the drain. She's a major jerk for that. OP tried his best and she's being awful. He owes her nothing. Nobody is owed acts of service or love, but when someone is nasty about it, then it's perfectly within reason for OP to say he's no longer going to do it. Our next story is, am I the jerk for expressing concerns about my partner getting a new dog rather than pretending I'm fully supportive? My 33-year-old male partner, 35-year-old female, of about 10 months is going to get a new dog. She had a dog for a long time from when she was an undergrad, just a couple years ago. The dog lived a full life and died of old age. She's getting a new dog soon. She's a homeowner, lives by herself, except for when I'm there. I live in a van for the most part and work as a mountain guide. Unfortunately, I'm allergic to animal dander. One of the things we do together as a couple is climbing. Having a dog always complicates climbing outdoors. Bringing a dog to the climbing wall is generally frowned upon. Climbing is very important to me, and sharing it with my partner is an important part of a relationship to me. I'm concerned about the impacts the dog will have on what we're able to do together as a couple. I would prefer not to have a hairy dog inside my van. Hair gets everywhere, and I'm allergic to it. Our options of where to go, what we can do, how long we can do it for, will be limited and affected by the dog. This will mean I have to compromise, more than I already do because of the disparity between our skill and experience levels, on what I would like to be doing on trips and outdoor time with her. I don't know if it's even worth bringing any of this up, but there was no part of the conversation where she asked what I think of her getting a dog. I guess we're not there yet to where my feelings on life decisions can be considered in her decision making. Is it even worth bringing up these feelings? She loves having a dog and it brings her a lot of joy, so I feel like I should just support it. But at the same time, it feels like doing that without even mentioning any of these concerns will be ignoring or minimizing my own feelings, and that frustrations may arise later. I'm not sure what to do or say. Any advice appreciated. Well, it doesn't sound like you're married. You refer to her as a partner, not even a girlfriend. So, no, I think it's a good thing that you do feel bad about even thinking about bringing it up, but no, it's not really your place to bring it up to your partner because you're just not at that level of your relationship yet. Chaos Kitten 13 responded, "You might just not be compatible. She likes dogs. She's a dog person and will want to have dogs. You don't. You also seem really concerned with fitting her into your life as it is versus building one together. I do understand wanting hobbies to be shared, but I'm mostly seeing how you're fitting her into yours, and think compromise is accommodating that she isn't as skilled as you in your hobbies. There's a balance to be struck, and instead of trying to fit the person you are into this pre-imagined puzzle piece you have, look at the reality of how your desired future would affect her and her wants and needs. Are those compatible? Could you actually compromise and still be happy in this relationship? This is the time to figure that out and decide if the relationship has future potential." Our next story is, "Am I the jerk for uninviting someone from my wedding after she just spent $2,000 on my bachelorette? I had my bachelorette party last month, an international trip with 13 girls. Most live in City 1, where I grew up but no longer reside. I now live in City 2, a short flight or 6-hour drive away. One of the girls, Rachel, was a high school friend I reconnected with 2 years ago after getting engaged. She recently started dating someone new. He's in City 2, my city, and she spent the entire trip FaceTiming him. At events, the club, the beach, the yacht, while getting ready, even in the shower. Worse, she dragged other girls into her calls, even though they barely knew her, let alone him. She also FaceTimed while people were changing or while she herself was fully nude. At one point, she got into an argument with her boyfriend and handed the phone to her roommate, Jamie, who had never met him, forcing her into the fight. Jamie, fed up, hung up and later asked to switch rooms. When she wasn't FaceTiming, she was talking about him non-stop. At dinner, she kept blurting out, "I'm moving to City 2, we're gonna be neighbors." But when I asked about her kids, she vaguely said she'd fly or drive home every weekend. This is a mom of 2, with 2 different dads, moving for a boyfriend of 1 month. One night, during a private chef dinner, the power went out and Rachel's phone died. Everyone withheld their portable chargers. She then booked a hotel on someone else's phone, packed her bags, and left to charge her phone. Mandy, being too nice, walked with her. On the way, Rachel suddenly desperately needed to call her kids, which is hilarious since she hadn't mentioned them once. Unfortunately, the power came back, so Rachel did too. Later, while we were playing Bachelorette games, she blurted out racial slurs during Mad Libs. I snapped, and the room went silent. We had a shared photo album for group pics. Rachel uploaded hundreds of selfies, thirst traps, FaceTime screenshots, texts about how her boyfriend was the one, and even mirror selfies from a store where she was trying on clothes without underwear. One dress had a slit, and her hoo-ha was showing. My fiancé was getting updates from some of the girls. He even asked Jamie to talk to Rachel, and he himself sent her messages about being more self-aware and to stop FaceTiming this guy. Nothing changed. After the trip, I sent Rachel a message thanking her for coming, but making it clear her behavior was completely unacceptable. I also told her she was no longer invited to my wedding. She read it and never responded. Some friends think I was harsh since she spent time and money to celebrate me. To be clear, I'm not cutting her off because I didn't feel like the center of attention. This is about how deeply uncomfortable she made everyone. Since I got back, I've heard even more crazy stories that the girls kept from me because they saw how upset I was. Am I the jerk for uninviting her? I'm gonna go not the jerk here. I think this Rachel sounds like a real firecracker, caused a lot of drama. You tried talking to her, asking her to tone it down. She didn't want to change. She's making people uncomfortable, and so yeah, the last thing you want is that to have a carryover effect onto your wedding and be a distraction there. So yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. Not the jerk. Infinite Slide 5921 commented, "Not the jerk, but I have a hard time being sympathetic to someone who has an international trip with 13 people for a bachelorette. You don't have 13 close friends. If you wanted a meaningful occasion, you should have kept it intimate. Going on vacation with a big group you aren't close to is asking for this kind of trouble. Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my husband that I can't trust him with my children? I, 32-year-old female, was cooking dinner and feeding the baby when my husband, 33-year-old male, came home with the toddler after picking him up from childcare and noticed he needed a nappy change. He's a decent, modern-day dad who happily changes nappies, so he went to do it as usual. I was finishing loading the dishwasher while still boiling water on the stove and watching the baby in his high chair when my husband called out because the toddler was crying due to severe nappy rash. I was hoping he could deal with it, but he seemed to panic and just said he would stop. I went in and saw him closing a fresh nappy without having cleaned the toddler. I took over. Sure enough, the nappy rash was bad, which is all the more reason to clean it properly and you can lather on the cream for healing. Once done, I went back to cooking the dinner while my husband sat on the couch with the toddler. I said I wasn't happy that he didn't handle that situation because it worries me if I'm not ever here. What if I die? What if I went out for a night? How can I trust him to look after the kids if he can't even deal with such a basic task? He then started saying, yeah, well, if I was a normal husband, I wouldn't even be home from work yet and you would have had to do it anyway. Then said something about it being a woman's job. Whilst I was offended by his comments, I said it was irrelevant because we weren't talking about gender roles. We were talking about whether he's capable of caring for the children if I'm not around. He brushed it off completely as not a big deal. He said that I found it horrible that he can't see that this is an issue or admit that he was wrong. He then said, what I find horrible is that not 5 minutes after coming home, I get yelled at and abused when all I was trying to do was help. Is he right? Am I the jerk for thinking he should have been able to handle the situation, or should I have been more supportive and helped without commenting? So I think in both your cases, instead of arguing, you just need to have a conversation about this. If he doesn't know what he's doing, just show him. Don't, belittle him for it. Not that his comments were appropriate, they certainly weren't. Sounds a little misogynistic, but either way, you guys are married with children, you just talk it out. Eva Dreamer commented, not the jerk. Dude really said, if I was a normal husband, I wouldn't even be here, like that was some kind of flex. Sir, what? You weren't yelling at him for needing help, you were concerned that he straight up gave up mid-wipe and was about to leave your toddler marinating in their own disaster. That's a parenting red flag, not a husband getting nagged moment. He doesn't have to be perfect, but bare minimum, he should be able to handle basic hygiene without tapping out like it's a UFC match. Our next story is, would I be the jerk if I don't share the inheritance that I received from a friend with her daughter? I, female, 32, recently came into an inheritance when my neighbor and close friend, Valerie, female, 68, died. I met Valerie when I moved into my condo in 2018 and she became my next door neighbor. Our places are on the top floor and have almost connecting balconies. We used to spend every Saturday morning outside taking care of our plant babies and chatting. I had learned that Valerie had been a widow since she was 55. I got the impression that she had married young and never had a true chance to learn who she was until after she had died. I had always thought that Valerie was alone in the world. Turns out that Valerie had one child, a daughter, Sam, female, 44. However, they had been estranged since the early 2000s. The story that Valerie told me was that Sam had come out as gay when she was just out of high school. That did not sit well with Gary. He told Sam that she was no longer his daughter and kicked her out, telling her to never contact them or come home again. The whole situation broke Valerie's heart, and it was her biggest regret in life. She told me that she had always wished she had tried to fight for Sam, but in the moment, she was so shocked that she watched the whole thing happen without saying a word. When I had first heard the story about Valerie, she told me that she hadn't because she didn't know how to even try. So I did some internet sleuthing and found Sam on Facebook. It turns out that Sam had managed to build a good life for herself. I helped Valerie draft a heartfelt message to Sam. Valerie apologized for everything and told Sam how much her perspectives had changed over the years. Valerie also asked if they could try and build a new relationship. We sent the message and saw that Sam had seen and maybe read the message, but Sam never responded. About a month ago, I got home from work to find Valerie passed away on her balcony. She had suffered an embolism. I sent the link to her obituary and memorial page to Sam. I didn't see Sam at the funeral. There was a lawyer handling all of Valerie's affairs. I thought that I would simply grieve the loss of my friend and eventually would have a new neighbor. I never expected me to be the only person who Valerie left in her will, let alone to have been left everything. A few days ago, Sam messaged me. She was upset and demanded that I give her Valerie's things, claiming that I took advantage of an old widow. I was upset when I first read Sam's message and thought, who does she think she is? She hasn't spoken to Valerie in literal decades and never responded when Valerie tried to reach out. Now, Valerie is her mother and that entitles her to Valerie stuff? Now I wonder if I should do something for Sam. I go back and forth if Valerie would want me to. Valerie knew where Sam was, so she could have included Sam somehow. The lawyer I talked to said that the inheritance is completely mine and that Sam has no claim. But should I give Sam something? I don't think so. I think you can just respect the will. It's a little too convenient and coincidental that Sam is reaching out now that the mother's passed away and she's discovered that she wasn't left anything in the will. So, do what you want, but I don't think that you owe her anything at all. The sci-fi guy 80 commented, "There's always 3 sides to every story. Side A, side B, and the truth in the middle. You don't know what happened between the two of them. Not really. So I'd be very careful of vilifying anyone. I had a friend who was kicked out and whose mom cut contact because they came out as gay. Their mom acted like their child was the one who abandoned and mistreated them and played the victim to anyone who would listen. It's not always so simple when family doesn't come around. I don't think you need to give up any cash, but I would offer her pictures and mementos in the house that she may like. Not everything, mind you, but a few things that might remind her of her mom, or pictures that she'd like, if there are any. Not the jerk." Our next story is, am I the jerk for insisting my husband stop giving his daughter food that makes her sick or stop letting her come home from school all the time? My 42-year-old female, stepdaughter, 13-year-old female, has her dad, 42-year-old male, wrapped around her little finger in mostly a good way. He's a great dad, super connected and present, spends a ton of time with her and loves her to pieces. Stepdaughter is smart, funny, independent, really just starting to grow into being her own human being. She went through a lot when she was with her mom, up until a few years ago, and really didn't get the basic parenting with healthy boundaries and consequences. She struggles a lot with honesty, and is incredibly manipulative with any adult she can get away with it with. I have a lot of space for it because up until recently, the adults in her life really haven't given her a reason to be honest. But she will lie, cheat, and manipulate to get out of doing anything she doesn't want to do. Lately, it's been coming home from school sick. Her stomach reacts badly to both dairy and gluten. I feel really bad for her. She went a few weeks without both and all her stomach issues cleared up, but she wants to eat whatever she wants and her dad doesn't want to force anything on her. I said, okay, you have 2 options. 1, we can cut out dairy and gluten. I'm perfectly happy to do it with her. Or 2, you can't come home sick from school anymore unless you're throwing up or you have a fever. Also, we agreed when she stayed home sick, she wouldn't get her cell phone until school got out. My husband agreed it was a good compromise and thought that was the end of it. Today, I found out that she came home from school with diarrhea and was on her phone all day and spent all evening at her friend's house. I gently lost it on my husband. I told him he's either making her sick or being manipulated by her. Both aren't great parenting. Today, I insisted that, again, he either gets the dairy and gluten out of the house or, again, tells his kid that if she chooses to eat dairy and gluten, she has to stay at school. And if she does come home from school, she doesn't get her phone and can't go to friends' houses. I feel like a jerk, but this crap is driving me crazy. I know she's been through a lot, but I don't see how allowing this is helping her. Am I the jerk for putting my foot down? No, you're not the jerk for putting your foot down. Back in my day, we called this being a parent, so no, you gotta set these boundaries. Shellwood46 commented, "Not the jerk. A person with lactose intolerance having lactose makes themselves uncomfortable for a bit and stinks up the house, but a person with a genuine gluten intolerance having gluten can cause permanent damage to their GI system and have trouble absorbing nutrients. It can stunt growth and cause secondary diseases. Your husband needs to understand what the doctor has diagnosed, and both her bio parents and you have to start taking this seriously, and not just as this young girl being naughty. Her using it to get out of school is a secondary problem. She has a medical condition and everyone is failing her." Grape Skittles for Me responded, "She needs to be tested to see if she has celiac disease. If she does, she could basically be killing her intestinal lining by eating gluten. This isn't just some fun little game to get out of school. It's an actual health issue and he needs to take it seriously. He should also let the school know that she has these dietary restrictions." Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to pay for my nephew's college tuition while paying for my cousin's dog's medical fees? My cousin's dog got really sick, and the cost to treat her is very, very expensive. I love dogs. I love her dog in particular, and I love her, so I paid for it for her in full. Now, my brother and his wife want me to help them pay for my nephew's college fund. I could help pay for it easily, but I refused. I don't like my nephew. I don't like his mom. I'm indifferent towards my brother. We don't have the closest relationship, but at least we're cordial. Plus, it's not like they can't afford it. They go on multiple overseas trips a year. But if they pay for it themselves, they won't be able to afford other things, like their shopping sprees and brand name bags. They'll have to downgrade their life a little, and they're not happy about it. But to me, it's just normal life. Like, people save all the time for college, even if it means they can't afford to go to Disney this year. They think it's unfair because my cousin could have afforded her dog's treatment all on her own easily. She's in a better financial state than them, but they can't afford, their son's college fees easily. They're bad-mouthing me to everyone, claiming that I'm favoring a dog over my nephew, which is, I'm not gonna lie, sorta true. They think I'm out of touch because I don't think it's a big deal for them to not go on multiple luxury vacations a year to afford their son's tuition. They think that because it's my brother and blood family, I need to help them out, especially since they think it's easy for me to do. Am I the jerk for refusing to help pay for my nephew's college, even though I totally could, and for, in their eyes, treating a dog better? I mean, there's all kinds of levels of pettiness and entitlement in this story. In a vacuum, though, without the context, no, you're not the jerk because it's your money and you're not obligated to pay your nephew's tuition. However, it sounds like some family counseling might definitely need to be in order. Alternative Do 1958 commented, "Why is it your responsibility to pay the tuition? You like dogs, you don't like your nephew. If your brother wants his kid to go to college, he needs to find a way to pay for it. If I were you, I'd be honest. Why should you spend money on someone you don't like and that you're not close to?" Mission Remote 5179 replied, "They seem to think because family, and that I should prioritize my nephew over a dog." Our next story is, am I the jerk because I got up for 5 minutes after my fiancé and I have a meal? I, 23-year-old female, and my fiancé, 25-year-old male, have been living together for almost 2 years. In the last month or so, my fiancé has adopted the habit of attempting to clean his teeth after eating by making this sucking noise constantly. It's such a disgusting noise that I can't stand listening to it. For context, growing up, I grew up with a grandfather that ate with his mouth open and my grandmother who had issues with her throat. Because of this, for most of my life, I was subject to listening to some pretty gross noises while they ate. As an adult, I don't want to be subject to the same experience if I don't have to. I've brought it to my fiancé's attention several times. Every time he acknowledges it and says that he'll try to stop. He just feels like there's something in his teeth. I've suggested floss, toothpicks, those portable toothbrushes. Nothing has worked. He still continues to do it. I don't really see why I have to force myself to listen to him doing all that after we eat, and I've made it a point to get up and go sit in a different area of the house for 5 minutes. We got into an argument about it, and he's calling me a jerk because I shouldn't be getting this upset about something he can't help. Like I said, I've already told him several times that I'm not going to subject myself to listening to him do that. If he's not going to make a more conscious effort to not do it, then I'm going to remove myself from situations where I listen to him do that. I'm not even trying to make him feel bad or give him this ultimatum, but I don't understand why I need to force myself to listen to him do something that genuinely makes my skin crawl just to make him feel better. It's also important to note that it's not like he does this just after big meals. He does this multiple times a day after eating pretty much anything. Am I the jerk? No, I would not say that you're the jerk as someone personally who has lived with people that smack at the table and suck on their fingers instead of using a napkin, stuff like that. It's just gross. And it's like, look, I'm not going to try to stop you from doing that. I just don't want to be around it. So I'm going to eat somewhere else. I'm going to go somewhere else. I think you're setting a boundary. You've offered solutions for him to maybe not make the weird, nasty sound or whatever. He doesn't want to do it or it doesn't seem to work. So yeah, extracting yourself from the situation, best way to handle it. Not the jerk. My name is Zem commented, not the jerk, you're upholding a boundary properly, that you will not tolerate gross eating noises at the table, which means you aren't forcing him or giving him ultimatums, but removing yourself from the room when the behavior occurs. It's a healthy way to respond to something that bothers you if the person is unwilling to change their behavior. It doesn't sound like your fiancé is willing to compromise in this habit. Why is that? Are there other situations where he refuses to compromise? When people do something with their mouth, they're generally aware of it. Do you believe that he's physically unable to stop this habit that he has very recently picked up? Do you recognize that he's valuing this habit over your comfort and happiness at the table? Rexmaster2 responded, "Yeah, this whole he can't help it is trash. He knows he's doing it. He knows it bothers OP, and now he has the audacity to get mad when OP's doing what she needs to do for her own sanity? This guy's a total jerk." Our next story is, am I the jerk for not taking in my friend after she was kicked out by her homophobic mom? This just happened, and I'm suffering with a guilty conscience, so I could really use some outside input. I started uni about 2 weeks ago. There I met this girl, let's call her Lexi. We hit it off and have been getting closer, as friends. She started to open up to me about her terrible parents. She's gay, but closeted, due to her parents being extremely conservative and homophobic. She dates a girl, in secret, and told me that her mom has threatened to kick her out due to her style, hair, whatever it is that makes her look like a boy, or just anything that her mom just doesn't like. So yesterday, she cut her hair short. It's not buzz cut short, but it's a bit lower than shoulder length. This morning, she came into uni crying, saying that the whole ride there, her mom said that she was a disappointment, poisoned by the devil, and that she would stop paying for her tuition. In my country, it's very rare to see freshmen paying their tuition, since we usually start working at 18, which me and her are, and still, the pay is very low, not enough to afford a medium tuition. So she would just have to stop going to uni. I tried to comfort her as best as I could. Now, a few hours ago, she texted me saying that her mom kicked her out of the house because of her hair. She recorded a few audios of her mom blowing up in the car ride home, saying all kinds of stuff to Lexi. That she's ruining her mom's life, she's making her mom suffer, that her mom hasn't slept thinking about her daughter being consumed by the devil, that Lexi is associating with lesbians, gays, and a slur for trans people, etc. Lexi was understandably desperate, and I immediately got to trying to help her. She had nowhere to go. I didn't offer my place, but at some point, she asked if she could come. I said it wasn't possible. First, I live with my mom and sister, but my mom is away and my sister would probably not allow it. But I didn't even try talking to my sister. Even though I sympathize and care for Lexi, I've only known her for 2 weeks. I was also worried that if she came, she would just stay here for an indefinite amount of time, and that wouldn't be possible. So I would be stuck in a terrible situation. I googled some cheap hostels near her place, asked if she had money, and she said she did. Thankfully, she managed to go to another friend's place. However, I talked to a friend about this and she said that it was a jerk move to not even try to offer my place to her. I'm feeling guilty, so I really could use some advice. Was I the jerk for not taking her in when she's in this horrible situation? No, you're not the jerk for 2 reasons, really. Number 1, it doesn't really sound like it's your place to make that decision. If you're living in your mom's house, that would be your mom's call. And 2, you've only known her for 2 weeks, so what really do you owe her, and why are you the only option for her at this point? Like, that's crazy, so no, not the jerk. California Jade commented, "It's highly suspicious that you're the only option for someone you've only known for 2 weeks. You absolutely dodged a bullet. Not the jerk." Embarrassed Square 424 responded, "I don't know, she has very bad social anxiety and we're only friends because I approached her, and maybe I'm becoming sort of a safe space for her since she has so much crap going on. I feel like she doesn't have many people she can count on. Thank you for your input." Our next story is, would I be a jerk if I put a lock on my bedroom door so my girlfriend's mother can't sleep in our bed? My girlfriend, female 27, and I, male 30, are going on holiday in a few months, and her mother, female 60s, and stepfather, male 70s, have agreed to come and babysit our 2 cats, male 1.5 and female 1.5. Her mother has said that they will need to use both the spare room bed and our own bed when they stay, as they can't share a queen-size spare bed for 1 week, as they'll not be able to sleep in the same bed together all week, the bed size. My girlfriend has unhappily agreed to keep the peace, but it's making me very uncomfortable that they'll be using our bed. Would I be the jerk if I put a lock on our bedroom door just before we go away so they can't use it? Extra info that may or may not be relevant. My girlfriend's mother lives about 3 hours away, visits every few months, but the stepdad has never been before. Before we had the spare bed, she would happily sleep on the quite comfortable sofa, and we mainly got the spare bed for her visits. Although I know they're doing us a big favor by looking after the cats, they were intending to use it as a mini holiday. The mother does not always sleep in the same bed as her stepfather, as they both wake each other up snoring, and he's now getting some medical issues, meaning he has frequent toilet trips in the middle of the night. The best move here, instead of putting a lock on your door, is to just simply find someone else to cat sit for you. And I will leave it at that. The fanciest cat commented, "You would be the jerk. If this arrangement makes you uncomfortable, find a different arrangement like a paid pet sitter. It's okay to have boundaries, but you're in choosy beggar territory because you want to set the rules without giving anything up. Installing a lock instead of setting a boundary is too much. If you don't trust them to stay out of your bed because you asked, or you can't work up the nerve to ask and set that boundary, you shouldn't be accepting this help. For what it's worth, I follow my own advice on this. We always paid a cat sitter and boarded our cat because the family options, while available and generously offered, weren't something I wanted to deal with. OK Horror 1049 responded, "This! Plus, they're willing to help you out and are willing to share what they need in return to extend this favor. To wait until the last minute to screw them on a specific request is really awful. You want all of the benefit, but aren't willing to compromise? I get it. My husband and I travel and have to have someone sleep in our home with our pet when we're gone. Like you, I hate for them to be in our bed. Buy extra mattress liners, sheets, bedding, pillows that you can change out, and be grateful you have someone helping you. Yes, you would be the jerk." Alright guys, that is all the time we have for today. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like and comment down below. And if you want to check out any of our other videos, click the video on the right. With that all being said, I'll see you all next time.